the baby's heart rate started to drop with contraction, and they said, you have to get out of the tub. So climb out of the tub and then walk across the room and climb onto the bed with a baby hanging out of me. Say hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. I am officially not pregnant anymore. Are you smiling? Oh my gosh, I think I just got her smiles on camera. Hi, honey. Hey, smile. Isabella was born on November 27th, 2019. She is 5 weeks old at the time we're filming this. Yes, 5 weeks old. She was born at 11 pounds, 3 ounces, 22 inches long. So if you were wondering why my stomach was ginormous, because I had a beast baby inside. So here she is. This is her big debut. Say hello. Say hello. She's not so sure. But today we are going to be talking about my birth story. So, in order for you to understand the full story, I need to back up to about 3 weeks before I gave birth. At 37 weeks, I started to have prodromal labor. If you don't know what that means, it's basically like pre-labor or practice labor, where you have contractions consistently, timeable. So they tell you, okay, wow, I'm gonna be all over the place. They tell you that in order for you to actually be in labor and them to be real contractions, they have to be timeable. So Braxton Hicks contractions are not timeable. They're sporadic, all of that. But at 37 weeks, literally 37 weeks, like on the dot, I started having timeable contractions. They were every 10 minutes. And so we were like, okay, the baby is coming. And then I went to bed that night because my midwife was like, okay, get some rest if you can. If the baby's coming, you're gonna need some rest. You're gonna need some rest, so get some rest while you can. And here you go. So I went to bed and woke up and they were gone. They had stopped. There was no more contractions. So I was like, oh, darn. Then, you know, a few days went by, and then around 38 weeks, I started having them again, and then they stopped. And then 39 weeks, and at this point, I'm getting like really frustrated because I keep not going into work because I think I'm gonna have a baby. We're like, we have all the bags in the car, like we're ready. And then my contractions keep on stopping. And if you've ever been pregnant and made it to 37, 38, 39 weeks, you know how uncomfortable it is and how ready you are for that baby to come out. That's how I felt. I was just ready. I was ready for her to come out. I was so sure she was gonna come early. My midwives were pretty sure she was gonna come early. She dropped. She was really low. I was dilating and she was huge and she just didn't. So at 40 weeks on my due date, I thought that my water might have broken. It did not. I went into the midwife's office and they checked and my water had not broken. Yeah. They then did a sweep because it was my due date. So they did a sweep and we were like, okay, I was having contractions every 7 minutes at that point, and we're like, okay, this is it. The baby's coming tonight or tomorrow. for sure. Now this is the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And my midwife was like, I'm pretty sure that you're gonna have this baby tomorrow on Sunday. Yeah. So my midwife was pretty sure that the baby was gonna come on that Sunday, the day after my due date. Because I was having contractions, we did a sweep, we're like, okay, go time. Sunday came and went, no baby. Oh, I forgot to mention, at that visit on my due date, she took my blood pressure, which they do every time you go in just to make sure, and my blood pressure was really high. It was 145/80, maybe? I don't remember. But it was high. And she was like, well, that's normal, you're in pain, we just did, you know, sweep. So I took some magnesium because that's supposed to help, and we took it again and it was still pretty high. You know what? The appointment that I had, so wow, I'm a mess. You have weekly appointments when you get to the end of your pregnancy, and so the appointment before my due date was the Wednesday before my due date. My blood pressure was high and they were a little bit worried about it, and so they had me checking my blood pressure 3 times a day and then sending them the results so that they could monitor it. The reason that high blood pressure is a concern in pregnancy is because it can be a symptom of preeclampsia, which is pretty scary to have that. So they really wanted to monitor and make sure that I was okay. At that appointment on my due date, it was still pretty high, actually higher than it had been. And she was like, well, it's probably because of the pain, whatever. So we carry on, and at this point I'm still having to report my blood pressure to them twice a day. Now, finding out that you have a symptom of preeclampsia is pretty scary, and it caused me a lot of anxiety. I was really worried about the baby. I was worried about myself. I wasn't calm. I was very anxious, and so Monday came and went, no baby. Tuesday came and went, no baby. Tuesday night, I was like, you know what? I give up, because I had been trying literally everything to try to induce labor to get her to come out. And I was like, you know what? I give up. I'm gonna take a bath. I'm gonna go to bed, and she's gonna come when she's ready. And actually that night we had decided that if she hadn't come by 41 weeks, 1 week after my due date, we were gonna go ahead and get an induction. Typically they won't induce until you're 42 weeks. I just wasn't comfortable with waiting until 42 weeks, knowing that my blood pressure was high, knowing how uncomfortable I was, how big she was, which we did not know how big she truly was. We had decided if she doesn't come by Saturday, 41 weeks, we're gonna get induced. And that kind of helped calm down my anxiety, because I knew, okay, no matter what, by Saturday, I will have my baby. Wednesday morning, it was about 7:30, and I woke up to the sound of a pop. And when I say a pop, I mean literally like it sounded like that. And I felt it in my stomach. And I was like, what the heck was that? So I was like, oh my gosh, did my water just break? So I got up and I ran to the bathroom, because if my water broke, I didn't want it to get all over the bed. Ran to the bathroom, and yes, my water broke. Water everywhere. I'll save you the disgusting details. It wasn't disgusting, it's just water was like running down my leg and everywhere. Anyway, so I wake up my husband, I'm like, babe, my water broke for sure. So I had actually been scheduled for an appointment that morning at 9 a.m. to go into the midwife's office. Like, it was my time for an appointment. So I called them and I was like, hey, I'm supposed to come in later today, but my water just broke. Just wanted to let you know, because they want you to call them when your water breaks. And they said, okay, go ahead and just come in at your regular, appointment time, and we'll check you and go from there. Okay, great. Not even 30 minutes later, I was having contractions super strong. Like, I went from having 0 contractions to my water breaking to 30 minutes later having contractions where I was like, I really had to like breathe through it and focus to get through the contraction because it was pretty painful. And I was like, you know, we can't wait. We have to go now. Because all I wanted to do was go to the birth center, get checked, and know that everything was okay, and then get in the tub of warm water. So I was planning to have a water birth. That was my birth plan, if you will. So we get in the car. My husband, my sweet husband, made me some eggs because you're supposed to eat a high protein meal when you're before you deliver, so that you have a lot of energy and good food in your stomach to sustain you. So he made me some eggs, and I was supposed to eat them on the way there, but I was in so much pain I could not eat. I couldn't even think about eating. I had to force myself just to drink any water. And yeah, the entire ride there, so we live about 45 minutes from where I gave birth. The entire ride there, we hit every single red light. I was so uncomfortable. If you've ever been in labor in the car, you know it's miserable. It is horrible. You can't get comfortable. You can't really move. To like, moving through the contraction kind of helps, and you can't do that in a car. It was so bad. So I told my husband, call them, tell them that I'm having a baby like soon, and I need that tub ready, because I knew that they would want me to be a certain dilation before I got in. But I was like, heck no, we're getting in that water. So he calls them and he lets them know, like, hey, she wants the tub ready, and I'm having contractions where I'm like, oh, through them, like really groaning through them. And they could hear me in the background. So she was like, okay, we'll get it ready. It'll be ready when you get here. I get there, the midwife comes out and meets us in the parking lot. They asked me to give a urine sample, which you do every time you go to the doctor. I tried, I couldn't, I was in too much pain. We went into the birth room and they checked me, and then I got into the tub. I think they said I was 5 centimeters when we got to the birth center. I was 5 centimeters, and we got there at about 9 o'clock, about 8:50, 9 o'clock in the morning. And so I get in the tub and I just get into a comfortable position and labor begins. So I was in labor in the tub for, I don't even know, I don't think I opened my eyes. I didn't like look at the clock. I had no idea what was going on around. Okay, camera just died. Anyway, I didn't know who was in the room. I had no idea. I didn't know if my husband was in there or if he had left. I had no clue. My eyes were closed and I was focused. And then I started to, I have no idea how many hours into it I was before I started to feel like I was ready to push. So they checked me and I was only at like a 8. So it wasn't quite time to push, like she wasn't low enough yet. And I was getting really exhausted because at this point it's been hours, and labor is a lot of work on your body, and I had no food in my stomach. They had to like force me to drink water and Gatorade to kind of keep my energy up. The sugar from the Gatorade and the electrolytes really helps keep you going, especially when you're not eating food. With a birth center, you are allowed to eat during labor. They don't say no to that. They actually encourage it so that you keep your energy up. I just had no appetite. I was nauseous. I wanted nothing to do with food. I didn't even want water, but they made me drink it. So I continued to labor, and it got to a point where I was so tired. And I was like, am I almost done? Am I almost done? And they were like, yeah. And I could tell, like, no, I wasn't. But there's like, you just gotta keep going. Like, you don't have a choice. And your body, it just does what it needs to do, and you're just kind of along for the ride. It got to the point where I was finally at 10 centimeters and was able to push. I was pushing for 2 hours-ish. Honestly, I don't know the exact amount of time because, again, I did not look at the clock. The only time I remember looking at the clock, it was 2:35. And then she was born at 3:56. So I don't know. So for most of my labor, I was like sitting in the tub, leaning my back against the back of the tub. When my back started to hurt, so I moved to more of like a kneeling position, and my midwife was able to kind of put pressure on my hips and massage my back during contractions, which really helped. So I did that for a while, and then when I started pushing, it was in that position, like kind of kneeling almost. And then they were like, okay, you're gonna have to move because there's not enough room between your bottom and the tub for the baby to actually come out that way, for us to actually like get the baby out. And every time they told me I had to move positions, I hated them. I wanted to tell them no way, because every time I would move, it would be more painful, and I didn't want to move. I wanted to stay in one position the whole time. But I had to. So I go back to my first position, and kind of like there's like handles on the side of the tub, and I kind of use those to like push my feet against when I was pushing. And we did that for a long time, and then they were like, how about you go back to the position you were in for a few contractions and kind of have gravity like help the baby come down, because she was kind of getting stuck. So I did that, and that wasn't working, so I went back on my back. Well, it worked a little bit, but it didn't get her out. I went back on my back basically, and they were like, you could feel her. I kept asking, am I almost done, am I almost done? And they're like, yeah, you can feel her head. So I felt her head, and it was so soft and squishy. It was so weird. I was like, that's her head? And they're like, yeah, that's her head. And so at that point I was like, okay, she's almost here, I got this, let's get this baby out. And I was so determined. I was pushing as hard as I possibly freaking could. And your body kind of naturally pushes for you also. I don't know how to explain it other than that's just it. Like, your body takes over and it kind of naturally pushes for you, and you just assist it. You just kind of help. So we're doing this, and obviously they're checking my heart rate, they're checking the baby's heart rate throughout, just to make sure that everyone's good. And the baby's heart rate started to drop with contractions. It's supposed to rise with contractions, and it started to drop, which can be a sign of something isn't going right. But it wasn't enough where they were super concerned yet, but they were like, okay, she needs to come out. So I was pushing hard, and she just was not coming out. And the midwives, with how I was in the tub, they weren't able to really reach to assist as much as they needed to. And so the most horrible thing that you could ever tell a woman in labor, they look at me and they said, you have to get out of the tub. And when I tell you that I wanted to kill them, I was like, I'm sorry, what? They were like, yeah, you have to get out of the tub and go get on the bed. Which, let me tell you, the bed was across the room. It was on the other side of the room. And I had a baby. Like, her head was literally out. Like, not all the way out, but like it was starting to come out. And I had to get out of the tub and walk. So climb out of the tub. and then walk across the room and climb onto the bed with a baby hanging out of me. So I didn't have a choice, I had to. And once I got on the bed, I don't think it was very long. Again, I have no idea what time it was. But once I got to the bed, I don't think it was very long because I wasn't pushing for that long. But I remember them being like, okay, push really hard. And I was like, I'm trying! I was pushing with all of my might. I was like, I would get this baby out. My midwife was helping, like, down there, like, get the baby's head to come out because she was pretty stuck. And okay, so I'm pushing, blah blah blah, and then finally her head came out, and her head came out with her hand next to her face. So little girl was stuck, but I got her out. And once the head comes out, it's like you have to get the shoulders out, and then it's just kind of like blah, blah, blah. So they just kind of slide out. I remember feeling her head come out, and then just feeling her whole body come out. Like that's kind of how I remember it. And then they immediately put her on my chest, and Mommy's getting emotional. I remember looking at her and being like, oh my gosh, you're real. Yeah, Mama's crying. I was like, oh my god, you're real. Because it started to feel like she wasn't actually coming because of how long I had pre-labor. And we were both just crying. John and I were crying, obviously, and she was just so adorable. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're huge. They put her on me, and I could tell, like, I was like, okay, she's probably like 8 pounds. Boy, was I wrong. So anyway, she comes out. They immediately put her on me and wrap her up in a blanket. Well, wrap us up in a blanket. We were skin to skin. And they did whatever they had to do down there. I had to deliver the placenta, which really felt weird. If you're grossed out by things, probably stop watching at this point. But yeah, they you just kind of give like a little push, near as hard as you would push for the baby. It's like a little push, and then just kind of like slides out. I feel like a jellyfish. It was so weird. And then the midwives assess your bleeding and make sure that you're not bleeding too much. I was bleeding a little bit more than they like to see, and so they did administer a shot of Pitocin in my right leg. And okay, she might start crying in a second. Anyway, so they administered a shot of Pitocin in my right leg, and then my midwife was checking for tears and everything, and I was still bleeding a little more than they would like, and so they administered another shot of Pitocin in my left leg, and then that kind of helped get my bleeding under control. She did assess me for tearing, and I had no damage to my perineum. I only had, the only tear that I had was the tiniest, it's technically 1st degree, but basically 1st degree just means it's like a cosmetic thing. It's just the skin, and it'll heal on its own. It'll heal on its own, no, Bella! It'll heal on its own, no stitches necessary. 1 second. 1st degree tear, heal on its own, and it was like on the inside. And they were like, we could stitch it, but it doesn't really need a stitch. It'll heal on its own, you'll be totally fine. And I was like, good, I don't want no stitches. So that worked out really well. Hi, baby. Didn't tear, didn't need stitches, which was awesome. And then immediately after all of that, they kind of like pack you up a little. Like, There was like a million pads. Well, maybe not a million, but they put like an ice pack and a pad down there, and then I'm just laying there holding my baby. But I was starving, so they actually make you eat a high protein meal before they'll discharge you. So we ordered some Chick-fil-A, a little DoorDash, and I had a grilled chicken sandwich, and then they took her to do all of her measurements. So they took her and John went with to measure, and I may or may not be inserting clips from the birth and after that into this video. I haven't decided yet. I don't know. I'm scared. Anyway, they took her and they weighed her and they were like 11 pounds 3 ounces, and we were all like, what? It was so shocking. We had no idea she was going to be so big, or we would have tried to get her to come out sooner. I delivered the second biggest baby that they have ever delivered. The biggest one was 11 pounds 5 ounces. But I was, for a first-time mom, the biggest baby that a first-time mom has ever had in their facility. So, breaking records over here. And I was like kind of a champion because I didn't tear. So I just kind of brag about that to everybody. Which I'm going to be sharing some things that I did to prepare for labor in another video. So watch out for that. But anyway, so yeah, they went and measured her, checked her, everything was all good. I ate, we took a little like 30-minute nap because I was really weak and I wasn't quite ready to go home yet. So I took like a little nap, we just chilled, and then it was time to start getting ready to go. They did take my blood pressure before I left, and it was still really high, which typically when the baby comes out, the blood pressure regulates and everything goes back to normal. But mine did not. And I'm going to talk more about that in my postpartum video, which will be coming sometime soon. Yeah, but mine did not regulate immediately after I gave birth, and so it was a little stressful. But yeah, I planned to give birth on the water. I didn't end up being able to do that, but that's okay. The good thing about a birth center, or like one of the cool things, is that you don't have to stay overnight. So we got there at 9 a.m. and we left at about 7:30. My labor in total was 9 hours, and yeah, we got to go home 7:30 or 8, I don't remember, and then we stopped and got food and went home and brought our baby home and enjoyed our first night with our little one, which wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. It was really stressful for other reasons, not the fact that there was a new, well, it had something. We're going to talk about it in my postpartum video, but yeah, everything went well. I was good, she was good, and we were able to go home, and that was my birth. It was crazy. Giving birth was the craziest experience of my life. It was super painful, but it was super worth it. It's wild, man. It's wild. So that is my birth story. I think I got everything. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. That was pretty much how it went. 9 hours of excruciating pain, but then we have our little one, and she is such a blessing, and we love her so much. Yes, we do. We love you so much. We love you so much. But yeah, that is everything. So thank you guys so much for watching this video and watching my birth story. Let me know in the comments below if you have given birth. Tell me a little bit about your birth story. because I find them interesting. I love watching these videos on YouTube, so I wanted to make one too. And I think that's all we have for you. We will be coming back for many more videos all about baby. All the baby stuff. Yes, we will. Yeah, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed hearing my birth story and the craziness that happened. Yeah, thank you. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I say give it a thumbs up. No, we don't do thumbs up yet. And we will see you guys next week. Bye. Say bye. Bye. Bye.